You know that feeling, right? You're staring at a chart that's just packed with numbers and lines, and you feel completely lost. We've all been there. So today, we're going to dive into how to turn all that confusing data into clear, compelling stories that actually mean something. It's such a common problem, isn't it? Someone shows you a dashboard that's supposed to make everything clear, but instead, you just walk away with more questions than answers. It really feels like we're drowning in data, but absolutely starving for insight. So what's the deal? What's going so wrong?
Well, to get to the bottom of it, we first have to understand what data visualization even is. And it's not just about making pretty charts. Not at all. You've got to think of it as this really powerful intersection of data science, the ancient art of storytelling, and now the incredible power of artificial intelligence. It's a mix of art and science.
Now, here's the thing that might surprise you. The problem usually isn't that the data is wrong. The numbers themselves can be totally accurate. The real breakdown, and this is so crucial, almost always happens before anyone even thinks about plotting a chart. The story was never planned out, so the visual has no idea what it's supposed to say, and it can't guide you to any clear conclusion. Okay, so if the problem is a lack of planning, then the solution has to be a better plan. And luckily, there's a structured way to think about this, a real framework for building data solutions that actually connect with people.
And like most really good solutions, it doesn't start with some complicated software or super fancy graphics. Nope, it all kicks off with a simple, clear plan. So let's take a look at what that plan involves. Here it is, a pretty straightforward four-step model to create data stories that work. It all begins with what's called Step 0, which is all about context. Then you move on to Step 1, Investigate, where you actually dig into the data. Step 2 is where you organize your findings into a real narrative. And finally, Step 3 is all about how you deliver that message with clarity. So let's just pause on that first one, because Step 0, context, this is everything. This is the foundation of your entire project. Before you even touch a spreadsheet, you have to ask, who am I talking to? What specific problem am I trying to solve for them? And what's the best possible way to deliver this information? If you get this part wrong, the whole thing is just built on shaky ground. All right, now that we've got our framework, let's zoom in on the most important part of Step 0, the audience. Because when you get right down to it, we aren't just designing charts, we are designing for the human brain.
This right here is the single most important question you can ask. Are you presenting to a bunch of experts, to the C-suite, or to the general public? Because the answer completely changes your entire approach. And this just shows you how different it can be. For experts, say a room full of doctors, you can assume they know the lingo. Technical jargon is fine, and you can pack a lot of data onto a chart. But for the public, it's a whole different ballgame. You got to use simple language, focus on one or two clear takeaways, and give them a really strong guiding hand to walk them through the story. Two completely different worlds. A huge reason for this difference is something called cognitive load. You can think of it as the amount of brain power someone has to use to understand what you're showing them. The problem is, a lot of the standard tools out there can easily spit out charts that just overload our brains, making them confusing and pretty much useless. So, how do we fight back against that overload? Well, we can use some core design principles. Make it super clear what the main point is versus the background. Use things like size and color to create a visual hierarchy that tells the eye where to look. Group related things together. But honestly, above all else, just embrace simplicity. The goal is to make the information as easy to digest as possible. All right, let's talk about the new player in this game, the disruptive force that is changing absolutely everything about how this work gets done, artificial intelligence. The power of AI is just wild. I mean, what used to take an analyst hours of painstaking work, cleaning the data, picking the right chart, designing the visual, can now be done in seconds, all with a simple prompt. The speed and efficiency are a total game changer.
But, and this is a really big but, just because an AI can make a chart that looks believable, does that mean it's telling the truth? There's this very real risk of what's called an AI hallucination. That's where the AI just kind of makes something up. It'll present incorrect information as fact, and it sounds so confident, you'd never know. And with data, that is a huge, huge risk.
So you see, this means the job of a data professional is changing in a massive way. We're moving away from being the hands-on creator of every little thing, and we're becoming more like curators or directors.
Our job now is to guide these powerful AI systems with human intention, with creativity, and with a really strong sense of ethical awareness.
And that brings us to our final and maybe the most important section. You see, effective data storytelling isn't just about being clear. It's about being responsible.
This is an idea you really have to let sink in. There is no such thing as a completely neutral chart. It doesn't exist. The data you decide to show, the colors you choose, the title you write, every single one of those choices carries an editorial stance. You are shaping the narrative. So how can we be responsible storytellers? Well, it starts with some really practical ethical design choices. Use color palettes that are friendly to viewers with color blindness. Choose fonts that are actually easy to read. Write in clear, simple language. Basically, make sure accessibility is baked into your process from the very beginning, not just something you tack on at the end. And this is the thought I really want to leave you with. As we hand over more and more of the storytelling process to artificial intelligence, this question of who curates the final message becomes more critical than ever. As AI helps write our data stories, who is ultimately responsible for curating our reality?